I mean, most people would have said that when you turned 50, you would have been defined as successful. You would have been seen as engineering significant achievements in the financial services sector. Yet you questioned that. You were dissatisfied. And you've now then started up your own business, GiFT631, and became a coach, internationally renowned public speaker, consultant, facilitator, and author. I mean, what motivated you at that time, and what does GiFT631 mean to you?
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, I think you're right. I think many people would have regarded that, I've been successful in many aspects of life, but I just had this burning passion, this burning desire. I took the rocking chair test on my 50th birthday, to cut straight to the chase, and I encourage everyone else to take the rocking chair test. And I took that test, and I knew that if I'm 95 years old, I'm sitting in that rocking chair outside of our house, looking back on life, I was going to have a sense of disappointment, a sense of unfulfillment. And I've always wanted to run my own business. And, I took the decision there and then that I was going to quit corporate and I was going to set up GiFT631. And GiFT631, as you say, Ray, there's a few things that we do within GiFT631, from coaching to speaking, to facilitation, to leadership and talent development. But the GiFT part is growth, personal, team and business, inspiration, fulfillment, and transformation, again, personal, team and business. And the 631, I grew up at a property, 631 Kenilworth Road, in a place called Borsal Common in Coventry, in the West Midlands of England. And my first great teacher was my grandfather. My grandfather had left school at 12. He was a servant in a big country house. Anyone who's seen Downton Abbey would kind of get the whole idea. And he lived in the stables with the horses. And then he was promoted to be a footman in this big country house. And when my grandmother passed away, my grandfather came to live with us at 631. And he was my first great teacher. And I'm a massive believer in legacy. I'm a massive believer in sustainability. Too many leaders, in my view, they're just looking for the quick buck, the quick result. And for me, that's not leadership. That may be a form of management, but it's certainly not leadership. And leaders, they leave places better than where they found them. And my grandfather was the first person to really, I believe, he was my first great teacher, the first person who really started to instill some leadership attitudes and behaviours into me. I was probably too young to really understand all of them, but I wrote everything down, and it was something I came back to later in life. So my parents' and my grandfather's legacy lives on in the name of my business, and that was really, really important to me.
So let's go through then. You say that people can pass the rocking chair test, and I want to get through some aspects of this tonight, through their own value and living, and true to their passions and purpose. I mean, how do they go about it?
Yeah, and I would encourage everyone. I think today, Ray, so many people are on the hamster wheel of life. And I fundamentally believe we all need to slow down to speed up. If you want true greatness, true fulfillment, true happiness, true success, you've got to find stillness. And that would be my first request of everybody in this room, that you find time in your daily rhythms, your daily routines, to just be still. And put the phone away, put your desktop, your laptop away, and just think. And if you spend time with your own thoughts, one of the expressions I've learned from you is, you've got to be still so you can hear your own mind, you can hear your own thinking.
Your inner voice.
Yeah, you need to listen to that inner voice. And I truly believe if you do that, from stillness you get clarity, and from clarity you get innovation, breakthrough, and success. So that would be my fundamental first practice that I'd ask everyone to consider.
I think that was one of my big mistakes as a CEO, not understanding stillness and giving myself the time to reflect.
Yeah, well, you see, I've only got two speeds, right? I'm either completely still or I'm completely fast. And if you look at and I do believe speed is a source of competitive advantage, by the way. Speed stuns has always been one of my mantras. But I believe if you looked at me from the outside, all you'd see is the speed. But you only get that speed because of the stillness. Because in the stillness, you've got the ability to make better decisions. And if you're going to go fast and go hard, you want to make sure you're going fast and hard in the right direction. So the stillness leads to the speed.
Exactly. And also, you're action-orientated. There's no question about that. And it's the stillness that supports that action orientation, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, decide what you're going to do, commit to it, and go. Decide, commit, go. And I think too many people, they procrastinate, they overthink, you know, and then if you procrastinate, you start to doubt yourself, you overthink, you know, and you second guess yourself. And it could lead to procrastination, and before you know it, you know, time just passes, and you lose that competitive advantage.
So in living your life on your own terms, just describe the 4M routine, because I've read this book and I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
And it's given me a good, no, I'm not just saying that, it's given me a great understanding of what I've missed doing. And that 4M routine is just so important. So just describe it.
Yeah, so I was building to the 4M routine. You know, through my Mozart time, I came up with an affirmation, my daily affirmation. You know, I'm loving being the CEO of my own life and the time and financial freedom that it brings. So I was repeating, and this was, by the way, leading up to my 50th birthday, leading up to taking the rocking chair test. I'm like, I'm never going to get time and financial freedom if I stay doing what I'm doing. You know, I may get financial freedom, but I'm not going to get time freedom. So that was a big driver. That affirmation was a very, very positive thing, but it was also eating away at me. And I was having my Mozart time, and I wanted to build out from my Mozart time. And eventually, you know, it developed into the 4M routine. So starting every day with some movement. And again, many of my clients will say, I'm not a swimmer, I'm not a runner, I'm not a cyclist, I'm not a gym junkie. And I say, that's cool, just move. You know, if Tony Robbins was here, he'd say, if you want to change your state, change your physiology, first thing you do. So Leona and I will start every single day with some movement. You know, we'll take Boston, the dog, for a walk, and we'll talk about our desired future state. We'll talk about how we move closer in the direction of our goals and some of the decisions that we need to make. The second M, so M, the first M is movement. The second M is my mind cleanse. I need to organize myself. Success for me is 95% systems, 5% magic. Kartik knows this. So if you need the 95% systems to get to the 5% magic. So, you know, my mind cleanse is just my daily organizer. Everything that's on my brain, I just dump it down in my journal. But it's not a things to do list, because I think a things to do list for me is a race to the bottom. There's so much low value activity on a things to do list, and too many people get obsessed. I have to tick everything on that list. My mind cleanse is different. Once I've done it, I put a star against what I regard as the high value stuff. My measure of success, complete the high value stuff. Don't put myself under pressure to complete everything. Then I meditate. I honestly believe meditation has made me a better husband, a better father, a better human being, a better leader. You know, I just 10 minutes guided practice a day. Jay Shetty, Calm Out. It's more wisdom than meditation, to be honest, but fundamentally has improved the quality of my life and the quality of my thinking. So anyone here, you know, there's a lot of talk today, Ray, as we both know, around burnout, anxiety, pressure, stress. Movement and meditation are two proven techniques to reduce all of those things. So I meditate, and the meditation also centers me, it focuses me, and then I have my Mozart time. So really I'm habit stacking. Everything is leading to better quality Mozart time, which is just high quality thinking time.
Describe the SMART goals and the SMUT goals, and because I want you to break this down. I'll come back to 1 + 3 + 6 in a minute. But describe the SMART goals and SMUT goals.
I would encourage everyone to chuck away SMART goals. You know, SMART goals have added no value to my life whatsoever. You know, if you think about a SMART goal, it's we can all do 100. So we all set SMART goals. We all say, let's do 105. So it's based on the past and adding a little bit more. Whether you achieve them or not, it doesn't really take you anywhere in life. So it's not based on opportunity. It's based on what we've done and doing a little bit more. And the second thing, very early in my career, you know, I was on this sales course actually, and the trainer was saying, you know, we've all got to set SMART goals. And I'm looking around the room going, well, if we all set SMART goals, we're all going to be about the same. We're all going to be mediocre together. So I was like, I ain't doing that. I'm going to do something completely different. So I decided to set what I called unsmart goals. And then when I was working with this business in England called the Exeter, this insurance business, not quite as globally renowned as AJ Gallagher, but they're pretty good. I was talking to them about unsmart goals, and they're like, we love the thinking, but that is a really, really boring term. So why don't you just, you know, reframe it instead of unsmart, SMUT goals. So I live in the world of SMUT goals. So specific, measurable, unachievable, unrealistic, and time-bound.
These are stretch goals, right?
These are massive stretch goals.
Yep.
And if you think, right, you overachieve a SMART goal by 10%,
Mm.
you really haven't got anywhere. You get 70% in the direction of a SMART goal, you've made a transformational difference to your life and those that you have the privilege and the pleasure to lead.
And just to give an example of this, talk about your son Tom's experience in breaking down his goals, because I think this is a great story.
Yes, I mean, my son Tom, our son Tom, he lives in England. Tom's from my first marriage, so 22 years old now. And Leona and I, people sometimes think we must be these psycho goal-setting parents. I think we create a tone and environment, a culture within the family that's conducive to the kids, kind of understanding who they are, understanding what they want to achieve, understanding the direction that they want to go in. So, Tom lives in the world of SMUT goals. He's 22 years old. He's a tennis coach. He's actually doing an Ironman 70 this weekend. Very successful in the early part of his corporate career. But when he was starting out on his journey, he was not in a great physical shape, and he decided to run a half marathon. And it was a big, big stretch for Tom. So in his mind, he just broke it down by saying, all I've got to do is get to the next lamppost, get to the next lamppost, get to the next lamppost. If I keep getting to the next lamppost, I'll complete the run. And at the same time, he was doing it to raise funds for a mental health charity. So he locked in his SMUT goal to an emotional anchor, which was the mental health charity, and then he just broke it down. And that's the way that he's continued to be with his swimming, his cycling, his triathlons, and his Ironman.
Anything else you can tell us about how you maintain this positive, can-do, action-oriented approach that you take to each day?
I mean, you've got to surround yourself with first of all, the power of the mind. Unlock the power of visualization. Nick Bloor in this room, phenomenal kind of thinking about visualization, the power of visualization, which has helped me enormously. When you can lock an image in your mind, in your subconscious mind, really, really clearly. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between that image that you've locked in and what you can see, from your eyes. So visualization is incredibly powerful. I visualize the same thing every single day. It's the 18th of December, 2017. Leona and I are sitting in the Qantas First Class Lounge in Sydney International Airport. We're having a glass of champagne, and we're flying off to start our new life, where we live 6 months on the Gold Coast, we live 3 months in the UK, and then each year we live 3 months in a different country of the world. I see that every single day. I lock into that image. But not everyone can visualize that powerfully. So to me, Ray, you've got to surround yourself with a shed load of visual images. If you go to my office or my screensaver designed by my middle daughter, Lucy, if you go to anything that surrounds me, it is everything Leona's saying. It is just reinforcing the positive can-do, the optimistic attitude, and it just brings me back to my ideal performance state.
Because you're demonstrating your vision, aren't you? Visually, you've got a range of visuals that every day you confront, or you can't escape.
Completely. And find incredible mentors. You've come into my life in the last 12 months. It's made an incredibly powerful difference. But mentors through the generations. You look at some of the young guys in here, like, the Dooku's of the world, the Stephen Kamals of the world. The energy that you get from surrounding yourself with, positive, infectious people. Energy goes to energy. I fundamentally believe that. So that's a real powerhouse, part of my life as well. We go, Tim, Paul, Nick, Hans, and myself, when we go for a walk, or myself and Clark, that I come back from those walks and I'm like bouncing, I'm like bouncing through the door. I'm pretty positive and optimistic anyway, but it just takes me to another level.
That's right. And talk about, too, when you reverse GiFT631 into 1 + 3 + 6. I wish I'd known about it. I wish I'd done this. I wish I'd understood the momentum I could build in my day through 1 + 3 + 6. So just describe that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really simple, right? If you want to set a massive goal, your brain will be overwhelmed. So, we're all busy people. So if you're going to say, I'm going to achieve something that's miles out there, if you've got a logical, analytical brain, that brain is going to go, how? By definition, when you set a SMUT goal, you don't understand the how. So you've got to understand the why, and then you've got to have a process to break it down. And that's the 1, 3, 6. The 1 is the SMUT goal. The 3 is breaking it down into sub-goals or milestone goals. And then the 6 is the next best actions. 6 next best actions. Why 6? 26 is too many. The brain is overwhelmed, you won't start. And if you're only taking 1 or 2 actions, you're not creating enough momentum. The brain needs momentum. Success breeds success. It gives us confidence. It gives us belief. So every time I take an action, I replace the action. Every time I achieve a sub-goal, I replace a sub-goal. And it's as simple as that. And many, many people say to me, the book, the opening chapter, as you know, is quite emotional. What Emma did for me on my 50th birthday.
That's right.
The last chapter is very, emotional, a little bit deep. My last conversation with my father. But everything in between, it's really simple, it's really practical, it's really actionable, but it needs work. If you don't do the work, you don't make the change. Simple as that. You can read the book and go, that's a great book. It can make you feel good, but it won't change your life. If you read the book and do the work, I fundamentally believe you will move in the direction of your SMART goals.
Need a bit more clarity on Mozart time. What it means, what it's meant to you, and what do you think it means for others?
Yeah, sure. So Mozart time, it's 1993. I'm a struggling bank manager. I'm a young kid. I've been thrown into this big branch. 70 people in the branch. You don't get banks like that anymore. 25,000 customers. I don't know what I'm doing, right? I'm on the hamster wheel every single day. I'm going home. I'm working hard. But I'm going home at night going, what have I achieved today? And then it was a repeating pattern. And I thought, I need to break this pattern. So I hear this story about Mozart, that he suffers from composer's cramp. I don't even know if this story is true or not. It actually doesn't matter, right? It changed my life. And the way he overcame his composer's cramp was going out on his own in these beautiful estates. He probably left a beautiful building like this, wandered around some beautiful grounds, isolated himself from the world. And that's when he said he started to compose again in his mind. He said it's exactly the same thing. You've got to get away from the buzz, the energy, the rush of life, and just slow yourself down. So Mozart time is just that. It's just me, my journal, my thoughts. And you can think about the big questions. How do I set SMART goals? How do I pass the rocking chair test? How do I become a better leader? How do I become, how do I serve my customers better? How do I double my sales productivity? So you can either just give yourself questions or just let your mind wander free in the area of, how do I pass the rocking chair test?
One thing for me, you and I have talked about this, is, and I find this really powerful. There are some wonderful insights in this book, but what was important to me as a CEO was having symbolic gestures, is understanding the power of symbols for what it can represent, what it can say about your reason for being to your people. Just give us your view on that.
Yeah, again, I have lots of, I call them dashboards and trophies. So dashboards, trophies are things I've achieved in the past. And dashboards, I tell the story in the book. I'm a great believer that all success leaves clues. All the answers are out there. When I'm a young kid starting off in sales, I wanted to work with the best salesperson in the bank I was working for at the time. And it was this guy, Dave Salisbury. And I thought, well, he's the number one salesperson in the bank, so I'm gonna follow him around. I'm gonna learn everything he does. I'm gonna learn it. I'm gonna copy it. I'm gonna add 10%. Right? Model the masters. Success leaves clues. Go after greatness and just don't reinvent the wheel. Just do what they do and then add a bit more. So I jumped in this guy's beautiful black BMW one morning. I'd never seen a car like this in my life. Never mind get in one. So I jump in this car, and on the dashboard, he's got sellotape to the dashboard, a picture of this beach in the Caribbean on this beautiful, beautiful wooden dashboard and leather seats. I'm like, wow. I'm like, what the hell is that? You've got this beautiful car. Why have you stuck that there? And he just looks at me like I'm an idiot. He goes, that's where I'm spending my next bonus. He goes, every single day, the first thing I do, I leave my house, I jump in my car, I look at that picture, and I go, today is going to be the best day that I've ever had. That's the power of the symbol and the image. So what is it that triggers everyone in this room to get into that ideal performance state? And then if you get knocked out of it, to get back there quickly. There's many of us in this room that are entrepreneurs, that are small business owners. We can't spend more than 5 minutes lying on the floor feeling sorry for ourselves. If we're not on our game, we don't earn. And you've got to have those symbols, those images, that winning circle to pick you back up and get you going again.
Your book, The Rocking Chair Test, is so inspiring and also insightful. But I want you to describe, you mentioned it just a little earlier, because I found this really very powerful, very moving. Describe your final conversation with your father and how that inspired you.
Yeah. So my father came from a place of love. My father had a life unfulfilled. My father was a phenomenally talented sportsman. He could and should have played professional cricket. He didn't think he was good enough to play for England. He was offered a professional trial. He turned it down. And I think he regretted that decision for the rest of his life. He was a top quality table tennis player, top quality golfer, and his business career was wrecked by stress and cigarettes. You know, he had a massive heart attack at 43, came through that, but his career never recovered from that. And I think what then happened was my father tried to live his life through me, you know, and you can't want anything for anyone more than they want it themselves. So I was a pretty gifted young cricketer. I'd had a professional trial myself. I was 15 years old. It was an under-21 trial. I'd not got through. And my dad was obsessed of, like, you know, we can train every night, we can do this, we can do that, we can do the other. I didn't want it. And then there's one game when I'm 17 years old and I'm batting away. I'm an opening batsman. And I've been out on the drink the night before, so I'm pretty hungover and I'm pretty lazy when I'm batting. You know, I hit a quick 87, and then this guy bowled me this ball. It was a terrible ball, and so lazily I just thought I'll smash this into the crowd. And I just put it down the throat of this guy on the boundary. And my dad was umpiring, and the bowler said to my dad, he goes, "That kid has just thrown away a century." Anyway, my dad, I was pretty upset with myself. My dad just couldn't get over it. And this was 1983, and we had that conversation every single time pretty much I saw him, and it was also our last conversation. But he said it, you know, just before he died. I'd flown to England to see him, and we'd spent some time together, and this was the very, very last conversation we had. He turned to me and he said, "I still cannot believe you played that shot." He said, "That was the worst ball I've ever seen bowled in my whole life, and that was the worst shot I've ever seen a batsman play in my whole life."
Yeah.
And that was the last conversation we had. And I've got some amazing mindset techniques, I can tell you. They're all in the book. And I'm flying back to Australia, and it's a bloody long flight, as we know. And this conversation is going through my mind repeatedly. And I was really struggling. And then, you know, we went out on the beach, and I can see Tim. I can't see Nick, but I was out with Tim Tocco and Nick Bloor and a couple of other guys, and we're out. And Nick, and I'll forever be grateful to Nick Bloor. This is the genius of a winning circle, of a networking group. And you know, Nick was like, "How are you?" And I said, "I'm actually pretty screwed up." He says, "Why?" And I told him the story of the conversation, my last conversation with my dad, and how my dad had said it with so much anger. And then that was that, you know, and that's how he'd left me. And Nick said, "Don't you realise what your dad was saying? What your dad was saying was, what you've got to do is find the missing 13 runs. You know, find the 13 runs." He was encouraging you that you'd fallen short in terms of your potential. He was encouraging you to go hard and go at it and live up to your potential in life. And that conversation, as I say, I'll always be grateful to Nick for that conversation. That turned my whole perception of that conversation with my father, and has put me on this quest, A, to get the book finished, but then to live true to my potential, but do everything I possibly can to help as many people as I possibly can live up to their potential. So that's how the book ends, which will be the start of my next book. It goes deeper into my relationship with my dad, deeper into the number 13, which was significant for not just that reason, other reasons in terms of my relationship with my dad, and then, you know, it'll go beyond where we've gone with the rocking chair test.
Well, Andy, I wish I'd had this book a lot earlier in my commercial career too. There's a range of learnings here that I would have benefited me enormously as a CEO and in later years. So please thank Andy Fell.
Okay.